What's up, YouTube? WinterGuard here. So you've gotten to Act 3 and you're about to do the Trial of Chaos for your second ascension. How easy is it? Let's find out. So we're going to get into the Trial of Chaos, which is the second ascension for your playthrough in the campaign. You'll be in Act 3. You will have to open up the Chimera Wetlands in Act 3, and once you kill the area boss, it will drop an inscribed ultimatum token, which will basically be the key to start the trial. This is similar to Trial of Secamus, where you gain the access through the drop, and afterwards there'll be random drops for this key or token so that you can do the trial over and over and over. This guide is basically for the starter character, of course. We're not going to get into every aspect of it. You'll have to kind of do a trial and error, but I want to give you kind of a few tips to maybe look at as you're progressing through the Trial of Chaos. This one's simpler to me than the first ascension. You only have to progress through the trial 4 steps. When you start each room, you'll see that it'll say 1 of 10, 2 of 10 as you progress through. You won't actually have to complete all 10. That's for the final ascension. For the second ascension, you only have to kill the boss in the 4th trial of the tree. Basically, I'm just going to step through and give you some thoughts on to how to pick your debuffs, because it's going to be character based, of course. There are some that are easier to manage than others. When you get to the first room and each room progressively afterwards, you'll have to pick from 3 debuffs that will continue on through the end of the trial. So this is not a one and done. It's just like the first trial of Secamus. You have each debuff that you pick up carries through until you're finished. But there are some that are definitely easier than others. I'm not going to go through each one. There is a pretty significant list of these. One thing I'll say about the area of effect ones, though, is that depending on which boss you get at the end, there is 3 different bosses. The area of effects can become a little more detrimental because 2 of the 3 bosses have a smaller play area that you'll have to fight them in. So the area of effect debuffs are definitely going to limit your maneuverability when you get to the boss fight. Instead of going over the individual debuffs, I'm just going to put a link in the description to a list of the debuffs that are currently in the game. It's pretty comprehensive as far as which ones to take and not to take, and I would just utilize this guide as far as each debuff you hit to progress through the trial. It's pretty straightforward, and it's worth just looking at that versus trying to listen to a video and remember everything. So link to that will be in the description. So the different trials themselves, I'm not going to really dive into these a whole lot. They're pretty straightforward. There's a kill all the monsters in an area. There's an escort of a statue where you just kill the mobs along the way. There's a timed one where you just survive for an X amount of time and then that trial's over. There's nothing really difficult about the trials themselves, so we're not going to get into any kind of deep dive analysis of that. We'll just go ahead and get into the boss fights. The first one we're going to talk about is Uxmal. Basically, it's a dragon. It's on a 3-tiered play area, which that part is more annoying to me than anything else because you'll have to navigate up and down, but you'll just have to dodge the breath attacks. It has a cold and fire breath attack. It does do some poison damage as well from a tail swipe type of attack. Again, this one is fairly simple, but just navigating up and down the platforms can be kind of annoying. And again, if you have area of effect stuff that's chasing you around, that kind of adds to the complexity a little bit, but it's not too bad. I would probably put this one at one of the easier ones. Okay, the second boss that I'm going to show here is Chetzel. It's basically a grounded bird. It's to me, it's probably the easiest fight. If you just stay behind this boss, you pretty much can avoid most of the damage. It does pop a thorn wall that if you stay inside of it, it just doesn't affect anything at all. I did this on a high level character, so this is not really a good display of this boss, but it is a much easier one. It will spawn a plagueling. I would just ignore this and just keep circling the boss until it's dead. Pretty straightforward fight. Not a whole lot to worry about here. And again, it's one of those things, it just depends on what debuffs you have going in, but for the most part, this one's probably the easiest. Unfortunately, it took me many attempts to try and get that one to spawn, so I don't know if that's just my RNG, but keep that in mind as well. You probably have a pretty good chance of not hitting this boss. The final boss we're going to talk about is Balak. He is by far the worst of the three. You are going to be stuck in a smaller play area to deal with this boss, so this is where if you get any area of effect debuffs, this is going to become a bit of a problem because you're going to be constantly kiting. He has multiple different forward facing attacks, which not too bad to get away from, but if they do hit, there's a good chance of a one shot. The only other thing that happens in the first phase of this is the tornado, which if you get caught out of position, this could be a problem because it really hits hard and will drain your health pretty quick. But if you can get to the outer wall, you could pretty much kite it around fairly easily. But at 50%, he does add more attacks, and so this is going to be a pretty difficult boss fight if you're playing at level. You can out-level this and make this a little easier, but it is a DPS race, so be prepared for this fight to be pretty difficult. And again, if you add the multiplier effect of having area of effect debuffs on you, this is going to be a pretty tough fight. Hopefully you won't get this one. As far as rewards, as you see as you progress through, each trial room has an item that pops up, and what will happen is if you complete the trial, you'll obviously get everything that comes up, and you will get a random soul core as well as part of the rewards if you complete the trial. That's pretty much it. You'll get your 2 ascension points that you'll be able to allocate. We'll just leave it here. Hopefully you'll be able to get through this and navigate it fairly easily. We'll leave it here for now. Keep on farming.